Once upon a time, in a field full of flowers, there lived a little bee named Lumar. Now, Lumar the bee wasn't the biggest bee in the hive. She wasn't the strongest bee in the hive. And she was definitely not the laziest bee in the hive. That title would probably go to Barry White, who spends all day lounging around and doing nothing at all. But what Lumar lacked in size and strength, she made up for in her heart and determination. You see, Lumar was a dreamer. She wanted more from life than just making honey and hanging out with her friends all day long. Lumar wanted to soar through the clouds and fly above the tallest mountain in the land. Now, everyone in the hive thought this was a silly dream. They said it was impossible for a little bee like her to fly so high. But Lumar didn't care what they said. She was going to do it her way. One day, Lumar decided that she was going to make her dream come true. She packed a bag with some pollen and nectar and said goodbye to the hive. As she flew off into the distance, the other bees all laughed at her. "Good luck, little bee," they said. "We'll be waiting for you to come back down to earth." But Lumar didn't listen to them. She kept flying higher and higher until she reached the top of the tallest tree in the forest. From here, she could see the entire world spread out below her like a giant map. And as far as she could see, there wasn't a single cloud in the sky. "Oh no," she said. "If there aren't any clouds, how am I ever gonna fly above the clouds?" Just then, a wise old owl flew by. He saw Lumar sitting on the tree and asked her what was wrong. She told him about her dream of flying above the clouds, and the owl chuckled. "Little bee," he said, "you're not going to find any clouds at ground level. You're going to have to get much higher." Then the owl flew away, leaving Lumar to ponder his words. She looked up at the sky and realized that if she couldn't find any clouds near her, she needed to keep going higher. So with a deep breath, she started to fly. As she flew, she began to feel the wind beneath her wings. It was cool and refreshing, and she felt like she could keep going forever. Suddenly, the wind picked up, and before she knew it, Lumar found herself soaring through the clouds. She had finally done it. She was flying above the clouds. Overjoyed, Lumar buzzed with excitement as she danced among the fluffy white clouds. The wind was now strong, and she knew she had to go with the flow or risk being blown off course. Just then, she saw something in the distance. At first, she wasn't sure what it was, but as she got closer, she realized it was a giant waterfall. And the waterfall wasn't just any ordinary waterfall. It was the highest waterfall in the world. In fact, it was so tall that it reached all the way to the heavens. And according to legend, if you were brave enough to fly behind the waterfall, you would be granted a wish. Of course, Lumar had no idea any of this. All she saw was a beautiful waterfall, and she couldn't help but want to explore it. As she approached the waterfall, the wind began to pick up again, and she knew she had to go with the flow. The current was strong, and it threatened to pull her right into the falls. But Lumar held on tight, and she refused to give up. Finally, she made it behind the waterfall, and she couldn't believe what she saw. There was a small cave hidden behind the cascading water, and inside the cave was a shimmering pool of water. In the center of the pool was a lotus flower, and on top of the flower sat a wise old turtle. The turtle opened his eyes and looked at Lumar. Well, if it isn't the little bee who wants to fly above the clouds," he said. Startled, Lumar asked how he knew her name, but the turtle just smiled mysteriously and said, "I know things you wouldn't believe. Little bee, tell me, what brings you here?" Lumar explained that she just wanted to see what was beyond the waterfall, and the turtle nodded understandingly. "A wise choice, little bee," he said. "It is good to be curious and adventurous, but don't stay here too long. The longer you stay behind the waterfall, the harder it will be to leave." Lumar thanked the turtle for his wisdom and went back out to see the world. As she flew away, she looked back at the waterfall and smiled. She had seen so many amazing things on her journey, and she knew that her life would never be the same. As she flew, she thought about how far she had come. She had flown over the tallest mountain, through the clouds, and even behind a waterfall. She had seen things that most bees only dream about, and she had done it all without being the strongest or the biggest. Just then, the wind began to pick up again, and Luma knew she had to find somewhere to rest. Just ahead, she saw a field of flowers, and she decided to land there. As soon as she landed, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had made it. She had flown above the clouds. When the other bees saw Luma return, they were shocked. They couldn't believe that she had actually done it. "How is this possible?" they asked. "You're not the strongest bee, and you're certainly not the biggest." Luma just smiled and said, "It doesn't take a lot of strength to fly above the clouds. All you need is a little determination and a whole lot of courage." The other bees stared at her in disbelief. They couldn't believe that she was actually telling them that it wasn't hard at all. But then they looked up at the sky and realized that she was right. Maybe it didn't take a lot of strength after all. Maybe all it took was a little bit of bravery. One by one, the bees began to take off. They soared above the field, higher and higher, until they reached the clouds. And as they flew, they felt the wind beneath their wings and they laughed with joy. Together, they flew above the clouds and explored the world beyond their hive. From that day forward, the bees of the hive were never the same. They had seen the world from a new perspective, and they knew that anything was possible if you just believed in yourself. And as for Luma, she became known as the bravest bee in the hive. Her story inspired other young bees to follow their dreams and to never give up, no matter how hard it may seem. Because as Luma had proved, it doesn't take a lot of strength to fly above the clouds. All you need is a little bit of bravery.